Eric Burgess here, and we have the following inequality. The absolute value of 5x plus 2 minus 2 less than 3. So our first goal is, of course, to isolate the absolute value, because absolute values, we can't really deal with it with this 2 here. So we're going to add 2 to both sides. That's going to give us 5x plus 2. When you add 2, you're going to get 5 on one side, and this will go away on this side. So we're left with 5x plus 2 less than 5. All right, so now we need to figure out what values in here are okay that would make this interval true. So let's just consider some. So we want to be less than 5. So if we picked 4, that would be fine. And if we picked negative 4, the absolute value would make it positive 4. So this would also be fine. So what we want is we want 5x plus 2. We want this to be less than 5, right? That's what we want. But what if we have 5x plus 2? What about the negative numbers that we had in here? So what if it was negative 5? Well, we want to be less than 5. And less than 5 means that we want to be greater than negative 5, right? Because negative 4 is greater than negative 5. Negative 3 is greater than negative 5. And so we want these numbers because these numbers are going to produce things that would make the interval true. And that's how we know we should use this sign. Now you could also go with the rule that you take whatever's on this side, you flip it. So here's the positive version. And for the positive version, you just leave it alone. You essentially don't even act like there's an absolute value. And then you take the negative version and you flip the inequality. I don't like remembering this rule though, because it's pretty easy to mess up. And there are times where just looking at it, you can tell that it would be impossible to do. Like for example, this was 5x plus 2, absolute value equals negative 5. No solutions are possible because you'll always get a positive number on this side and this is negative. So this would be impossible to do. So I encourage you to be aware of the rule. It can definitely speed things up, but also take a second to look at it. And if you can't remember the rule, you can just think through it like I just did. So, all right, let's go ahead and solve these two sides. So we're going to add 2 to both sides. So we're going to get 5x less than when we add, we want to subtract 2 to both sides to get rid of that. So we're going to get 3 on the one side, divide by 5, and we're going to get 3/5. On this side, we're again going to subtract 2 to both sides. We're going to get 5x less than, subtracting 2, we get negative 7. And then we divide by 5, and we get x is greater than negative 7/5. So if we were to graph this really quick just so we can see it, we're going to have negative 7/5, where I'm just going to put this somewhere over here, negative 7/5. And we're going to have positive 3/5. And x has got to be less than positive 3/5, so it's going this way. It's got to be less than. And x has got to be greater than negative 7/5, so it's got to be going this way. And we see that there's this area in between. This will be our solution set. It's going to be the area in between these two values, because if we pick a value that's too big, like way out here, we are going to wind up with something that's actually greater than 5. So let's go ahead and let's check it. Let me show you how to check it. So 5x plus 2, well, let's pick a value in here. So 0 is in the interval, so that's a really easy one to check. So if we do 0, that'd be 0 times 5. Well, that's 0 plus 2, and the absolute value is 2 is 2, and that's less than 5. So 2 is less than 5, so we see that this interval appears to check out. Now we can check the two endpoints, and what we should get if we check the endpoints is 5. And if you check them with these equations, you should actually get 5 and negative 5. But if you check it with the inequality, we should get 5 both times. So doing that, let's go ahead and do that. So this is going to be negative 7/5. The 5 will simplify with the 5 on the bottom, and we'll get negative 7 plus 2. That's negative 5, which is exactly what we expect. Absolute value is 5, and so we see that this side checks out. Now, it's not included, of course, because we want strictly less than. And on this side, we have 3/5. So 5 simplifies with 5. We're left with 3. 3 plus 2 is 5. And so this side also checks out. And if you look at this side, we expect to get positive 5. And we would get another thing that we don't include because there's no equals to sign. but all the values in between check out. And we've already checked this interval. If you want to go even further, you could check the outside intervals and show that they are false. And that would give you even more confidence. So let's go ahead and write out our interval notation. So we're going to have x is an element of, and then we're going to have an interval in here. We're going to have the interval between -7/5 and 3/5. So we're going to have -7/5, comma, 3/5. These are all the values that x can take on. And so we would go ahead and box this. Some sites will also write the answer like this. They'll have like x is an element of, or they may not even have this. And then they'll have brackets to show that it's an interval. So I've been treating everything as a set, and then I've been writing the interval inside the set. But some websites will have you do the interval inside brackets to distinguish it from a set. So, because typically sets are reserved for individual points, like 3, 7, 2, like individual numbers, where the brackets are reserved for ranges of numbers. So you'll also see the answer like this if you're doing like online homework. But you can write it either way. It's pretty well understood that you wrote it as an interval here, so it should be interpreted as an interval notation. Just write it however your professor writes it. Every professor is a bit different. And the online stuff's also going to do its own thing. So just, I know it kind of stinks. There's so many ways to write the same thing, but you just got to play the game and know all the different ways. If you have any questions about this, let me know. Subscribe. If you're a Citrus College student, feel free to stop by online tutoring. We're there to help you out, and we'll catch you in the next problem.